This is even better than we expected as Ivan Deminov continues to dominate the KHL despite low ice times, setting records across the entire KHL, making Montreal's future look even brighter than we expected. We're going to break all this down and more later on this episode. Before we get into that, I want to give a huge shout out to everyone subscribed. And if you're a part of the 93.3% that's not subscribed yet, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We'll be here all season giving you updates from the Montreal Canadiens and the rest of the league. But Josh, with that, let's just hop right into what seems like the future of not only the Montreal Canadiens, but the NHL, and that is Ivan Deminov. Looking at Deminov this season, 14 goals, 18 assists, and 32 points in 43 games. He's only 19 years old, drafted 5th overall by the Montreal Canadiens in 2024. I'll let you kind of take it away. What's your thoughts so far with how Deminov has been playing in the KHL?
I mean, shocked, but in the best way possible. Like, we knew what we were getting with this guy, drafting him 5th overall. I'm still surprised he's fell all the way to 5th. I mean, you look at some of the players picked ahead of him. Look, Celebrini, that's fine. But Chicago, like, hey, who knows? Levshunov could be something good. And you got Beckett, Seneca, Caden Lindstrom. Look, I'm not gonna get ahead of myself here and say that Ivan Deminov is a guaranteed superstar. But right now, all signs point to him being really the future of the Montreal Canadiens, and I would say for sure the best prospect that's not currently in the NHL. He's on a path to look better than Matvei Michkov, and he just turned 19. As an 18-year-old, even at the start of the season in the KHL, he was doing phenomenal things. But we've seen a lot of problems this year in the KHL with SKA St Petersburg and head coach Roman Rottenberg, who doesn't have a whole lot of coaching experience, giving Demidov low ice time. And if we actually look at his stats, though, what he's done with low ice time has been unbelievable. He's leading the entire KHL in points per 60 by far. He's 4.04. Next closest is 3.48. He's on pace for the highest points per 60 of an under 20 player of all time. He's on pace for the highest under 20, as in age 19 or younger, season of all time. He has 0 power play goals, barely getting power play time. And as of this thing here, in 20 of the 40 games played, he's played under 11 minutes, and he's second in the entire KHL in plus minus. The production with the minutes and the low ice time, the basically virtually no power play time that he's getting is what makes him so special. And if we revisit that clip of that goal today, it's all of that combined with this skill. There's a lot more that I can get into here on the Ivan Deminov front, but Mark, honestly, the thing with him that stands out the most is his versatility, his ability to do everything on the ice despite having the low ice time, and that production with no matter what line mates you give him, even if he's stuck on that 4th line, he's creating something, and that's what I'm most excited about.
And I mean, looking at this, you can go and look at all the U19 players to play in the KHL. You can see on this list, there are quite some big names. Kirill Kaprizov, Kuznetsov, who is back in the KHL now, but before he made it to the NHL. You can pause and work your way through this. But Demidov is sitting there at number 4 with 32 points in 43 games. He still has a decent part of the season to continue on to set more records with the team, to become the leading scorer for any player that's 19 years old. And just looking at St. Peterborough's lineup so far, you can see that he has been dominant. 14 goals, 18 assists for 32 points. He's sitting behind Kuznetsov, former NHL player Tony DeAngelo, but seeing him sit among this list at his current age, while also seeming like not getting enough ice time. Looking at this, Josh, do you think there is a chance that maybe if his ice time does go up, that he could be atop of Peterborough's scoring?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I mean, in the past few weeks, we've seen him start to get more ice time since Kent Hughes and Vinny Lecavalier and Nick Bobrov made their visit just a few weeks ago. Head coach Roman Rottenberg has been deploying Demidov in a little bit more ice time. Now, they did trade away Glotov, who was getting a good amount of minutes there. He was one of their leading goal scorers at the time. They've made some moves, right? So there's been some spots opening up in the SK St. Petersburg lineup. And in those opportunities, even with Kuznetsov hurt at points, Demidov has worked his way up. He was playing first line minutes in a couple games. And what happened? He had a 6, I believe it was 6, maybe 7 game goal streak in a row. I think it was 6 games in a row with a goal for Demidov very recently. It was just recently that was snapped. And he's right back at it with this filthy backhander today. So there's no doubt in my mind that if he was given more ice time from the get-go here, the start of this season, he would be at the top. Now, there's a lot of politics with this team as well. Stuff I'm not going to get into too deeply on this episode. But those fans of the KHL know often what happens, right? There was rumors earlier this season that they offered him a 3-year extension. He said no, and immediately after, he was getting benched. He was because they play with 13 forwards every night there in the KHL, which I find very interesting. But he'd be the 13th forward, or he'd be on the 4th line, all this kind of stuff. But in the time where he's gotten those top line minutes, he's putting on these point streaks. He's had multiple streaks this year of 4 straight games with a goal. And almost all of his goals, like they mean something. They're all borderline all highlight reel. He's making a defenseman look foolish or something. But even outside of the goals, Mark, is what I've been really impressed with is his ability to improve as the year has gone on, especially in his two-way play. Look, he's still got a lot to work to do in his own end, but he's showing a lot of characteristics that show he could be a very good two-way player because of his hustle and also his ability to defend the center of the ice. He's been playing like a pseudo center role at times on the defensive end, which is just adding to that versatility. He said that he might want to play center at the next level, but to circle back in terms of the points, he could very well be at the top of SKA by the season's end if he keeps playing the same amount of minutes he's been getting recently. Because reminder, half his games have been under 11 minutes per game. I feel like that is lost on people when you look at the team leaders right now. Out of those 43s, at least 20 of them have been under 11 minutes of ice time. So yeah, right now, you can make the argument he's the best player on this team, bar none, and he just turned 19.
And the biggest thing is looking at the Montreal Canadiens and the future of this team, looking what they still have so many young pieces. Caulfield is still in his early 20s. Suzuki, you can work your way down. Slav, Laine, who is in his later 20s at this point, or mid 20s, but there's still so much young talent on this team growing together. I'll throw it right back to you pretty quickly. But looking at this lineup, do you think Deminov would jump straight into the top 6 if he joined this team at the start of next year?
Top 6, I think, is absolutely within the realm of possibility, right? But it's always hard to say because this Montreal lineup, the benefit now, it feels like it happened out of nowhere. They're starting to get a little bit of depth. Like, I would say top 6 for sure. And if I were, let's say Deminov was coming over today, what I would do is I'd bump Newhook down to the third line. I'd put Deminov right up there with Laine and Duck. That's what I would personally do. You kind of let Newhook run his own on the third line so that he's playing against lesser competition. Maybe he can up his stats a bit, right? Because he's a skilled, fast player, but when it comes to Deminov, like, yeah, I think top 6 for sure. At the very least, like, he's going to be playing heavy power play minutes right out the get-go. Because, I mean, you look at Montreal now, they have a lot of guys scoring a lot of points. I mean, Caulfield's right up there with the NHL leaders in goals. And if you're talking goals per game, there's no one other than Patrick Laine. He's not going to show up here, but his goals per game is absolutely ridiculous now, 9 goals in 14 games. But, I mean, Suzuki's a point-per-game player. Caulfield is basically there. Lane Hutson's dominating. But you can't tell me that a power play next year with, like, Deminov, Suzuki, Caulfield, Laine, and Hutson isn't a power play that's going to score almost every time out, right? There's a world where Deminov comes over next year. Now, again, I might be getting ahead of myself, but based on what I'm seeing, I don't really know if I am. He could legitimately be the most overall skilled forward on this Montreal team come training camp. Again, do I think that that's definitely going to be the case? No. I mean, like, these guys are NHLers, and Deminov's still young, still has a lot to learn. But in terms of pure skill, it's tough to see him not fitting in that top 6, if not right away, very early into the season. So I see there being a lot of room for him to grow. There's a top 6 winger spot waiting for him. Maybe a center spot if that's something, like he said, he wants to do. If that's something the Habs want to, a path they want to go down, that's a world where we could see that as well. So I don't know. I'm just extremely optimistic that he's going to get the ice time he deserves, and he's going to produce the way we know he can produce.
And the biggest thing is going back to the lineup with Deminov in it. Once you inject him in this lineup, if you did put him in, like you said, if you joined today, joining the second line with Laine and Doc, this is a team that still has so much room to grow. They still have young prospects coming up through the system. Once Deminov joins us, the biggest thing with this Montreal team, they might not be a contender this season or next year, even though they're on quite a heater this year, looking like they might make the playoffs. But this is a team that looks scary and almost like the future of the NHL in 2, 3, 4 years' time when everyone really gets into that second part of their game. We still see Caulfield developing his game. You can work your way through the lineup and still see a lot of these guys that have that second plateau that they can hit to develop their game even more. But I'll throw you one last question. Looking at this list, is all Montreal Canadiens rookie leaders in points all times? You can work your way down. I'm not going to read through this. Shout out to Michael Ryder, former Newfoundlander, wow, as well. But looking at this list, do you think Deminov can maybe crack the top 10 next season if he joins the team?
I mean, top 10, I think, is absolutely within the realm of possibility. Now, we actually, as of the day of this recording, we did a live stream earlier. We asked our fans over at Habs Digest what range of points they think Deminov could get in his first season. And the most common answer was 51 to 60 points, with the next most common being 41 to 50 and then 61 plus. But they were all right around each other. I think saying that he could get 50 plus points in his rookie season is very reasonable. I mean, we're looking at what Matvei Michkov is doing in Philadelphia right now, and I have a hard time believing that Deminov would be any worse, especially considering that you could very well stick him on the line with either Line or Caulfield or whatever you're going to do, right? He's going to have talented players next to him, provided everyone's healthy. And he's primed to get a lot of power play time. Now, that would involve Slavkovsky moving off the first power play. We'll have to wait and see. That's probably, might even be the best thing he could do. So if we look at the total points there on that list again, even if I say he gets 55 points, that puts him just below Michael Ryder, just outside the top five. I think 50 points at least, I think, is what I would set my bar at. I'm not going to be upset if he gets less, but based on all the signs I'm seeing, Mark, like, I see a world where he could legitimately get above 60 points. Do I think it's likely? Maybe not, but all the signs are there. So I think top 10 for sure, and I think he might just be knocking on that top five.
I mean, looking at the list, this doesn't have someone like Lane Hutson, who has 32 points in
Yeah.
42 games of recording this. He will join the top 10 in this list as well. But what's your guys' thoughts on Deminov? Is this even better than you expected if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan, or even someone on the outside just watching this kid dominate a professional league in Russia? But what's your guys' thoughts on this? Go down and leave a comment below. While you're down there, leave a like, subscribe, share this with your friends. We're back tomorrow with another episode, so you don't want to miss that. But with that, I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Josh, and take care.